I don't think it's possible to be insufficient for yourself. And what I mean by that is we need to stop looking so outward to find our inward pieces. What you don't get from the world, give to yourself. And what that means to me is basically understanding that the world doesn't always give you what you want, but gives you what you need. It gives you understanding, it gives you lessons, it gives you whatever you need for the time being, and whatever else it does not give to you, you have to give to yourself. The validation and love placed within this world and placed within your perspective and what you can see is often placed by you. It's often placed by your understanding of whatever it is that you're witnessing. That love that you see in other people, that love that you see elsewhere, that love that you feel within is always within. Because your feelings are yours to have and yours to harbor. And that's why I feel like it's important to take responsibility for how you feel about certain things. Understand that, someone can make you feel a certain way, but you have to understand why it made you feel a certain way. And sometimes it's because of the agreements we choose to make within ourselves about ourselves. Like we agree that, we need validation from here. We agree that we need to feel love from here in order to feel like we love ourselves. And now I made a video called Self-Love Has No Condition because truly it does not. I don't think anyone should have to jump over any hoops to love themselves or give themselves validation. And I feel like for me, it was kind of a difficult thing since, a lot of what you do is expression. A lot of what I do is expression. And you have to learn to validate your expression without any expectation. And what that means is allow yourself to shine without necessarily needing to be seen. It doesn't have to make sense to everyone. Not everyone's going to validate your perspective. It has to be you that validates it. It has to be you that gives yourself what you don't get from the world because everyone else is a part of this world. And, you're a part of the world too, but that's what it means. You always have what you need because what the world and what you see doesn't give to you, you already have within yourself. And that's why I feel like it's important to just instantiate love within yourself, if not anything. I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate our thought processes with like trying to articulate what exactly feeling we want to cultivate, what we want to do, and how we want to move forward. And I found the best thing that works for me, and I've said this several times, but just doing your best. So actually putting in genuine effort into who you are in your expression and whatever you do and just trying your best. There's always no excuse when you're trying your best. And what I mean by that is, you fail, you tried your best. I tried my best. You did your effort, you did your due diligence, and you honestly saw the outcome of who you are. And that's where you can learn lessons. Because I feel like when you put partial self into real reality, then whatever happens, you're left with a half in, half out kind of mentality. Because it's like, oh, well, can I really do this? I didn't really try, didn't put my best effort. But if you barely try and you get it, that's a whole different story. But in general, trying your best and I guess practicing self-love as well as being yourself. Loving yourself into being something better rather than something, like a project. And that's the one thing I feel like I forgot for a little bit was, not only do you have to have a certain awareness about yourself, but you also have to practice self-love. You also have to cultivate love within that awareness so you can see love outwardly. And it's not like you can't see love outwardly in general, but to say that, any feeling had by you has to be had by you. It's about what you give to yourself at the end of the day and what you allow to be within you. And I feel like a lot of times we displace our certain feelings about things because we feel like they're unjustified. Why do I have to love the world around me if there's so much negativity? Why do I have to love myself if I've been negative? Because there's no other point not to. In the same way that you say, why should I love myself if I've been negative? Why should I hate myself if I've been positive? It's a double-edged sword, and you have to choose which side you want to cultivate, which side you want to swing. Both of them are going to cut, but you have to choose whether or not you're going to, go back into yourself or you're going to go into the world. And not to say harm the world, but to say carve out your space. Understand that you have a space to take up and you might as well use it. And if you're going to be here, be here. I feel like all of these things mean the same thing. And it really just is to be present. To be present enough with yourself to understand that, how you want to be is exactly how you're going to be as long as you try your best. And it's about not displacing how you want to be too much. Realizing there's a certain reality to whatever you think of. There's a certain reality to how you want yourself to be. Like if I think of my ideal self, I stopped placing so much distance between myself and what that is. Like I'm not imagining him 250 pounds of pure muscle. I'm imagining him as who I am now, and I'm just gonna love myself how I am now and try to get better in the present moment. Understand that anything I learn and anything I want to cultivate has to happen now. It does, it happens over time in little things. But if I want to instantiate who I am now and cultivate my own change and be an agent for my own change, I have to understand that I have to be here. I have to give myself what the world doesn't provide, and that's not to say the world isn't to be appreciated. I love the world. There's so much negativity going on in the world, but that's not to say I hate the world we live in. I realize that there's a certain dichotomy that exists within the world. There's negative and there's positive. And I'm not saying I don't acknowledge the negative. There's so many negative things that I'm all for getting rid of. But I'm saying when it comes to my own world and my own perspective, and when I have control over the mundane circumstances in my life that often take us away from the bigger issues, I'm going to choose positivity. Who cares if this random person on the street looked at me funny? I'm not knocking it off my day. Who cares if someone said something weird to me? It doesn't actually matter. I realize you give people's words as much reality as you give them. You have to be the one to allow that thing. And if someone wants to connotate you, if some situation wants to connotate you, you have to be the one to let that connotation through. And what I mean by that is you have to be the one to let everything through yourself. If you want positivity to be within you, you have to allow positivity. You have to allow yourself to be in a positive mood, in a positive headspace. Otherwise, you're going to rush it out because you're blocking a lot of things from getting in. And I realize you block your negative, you block your positive. And that's not to say you have to live in some sort of negativity, but to say acknowledgement isn't the same as living in it. I feel like ignoring negativity is like ignoring caution signs. There's certain avenues our brain goes into, and it allows us to sort of navigate the world in a better way. And I'm not gonna go into some random dangerous place nowhere and just do some stupid. There's no reason for that, and that out of love for myself, I know putting myself at risk in that scenario is not smart. But that's not to say I'm ignoring that that's possible. I'm just going to do it because I'm like, oh, the world is so positive. I'm so positive. It's about understanding yourself and understanding your world, understanding where you are to get where you're going. I'm always going to try to do what's best for myself. And that's why I feel like doing your best partially is loving yourself. Because if you truly were doing your best, then you would love yourself regardless. Because your effort is always enough for you. It's always enough. And that's why I feel like people have to realize they're enough for themselves now. Your insufficiency and your inadequacies are only judged by you. It's how you perceive yourself and how you have allowed yourself to be. And a lot of times it's just because we don't give ourselves room to grow. And what I mean by that is we don't broaden our perspective of ourselves to allow more parts of ourselves to shine through. We think we're this solid thing. Maybe it's mostly negative. And we just don't allow ourselves to exist in that positive plane because we've gotten so accustomed to how we were. And that's why I feel like a lot of times it's just breaking the habit of being yourself and understanding that you contain multitudes in a lot of ways. Who you are is not necessarily defined by your past, but defined by right now. Defined by who you are right now, how you feel right now. You could have certain things you've done in the past. Of course, I'm talking about morally. But you can have things you've done in the past. You can have such situations and events. But my thing is not letting it paint your character, but allowing it to paint your sort of understanding of things. You interact with the world in a certain way and you understand how the world works through that. You have to interact with yourself in a certain way to understand how you work as well. And a lot of times we interact with ourselves out of negativity, and we have a bad habit of expressing ourselves certain negativity in some scenarios. And that's because I feel like in trying to suppress that negative, we're sort of enforcing it. because we're not allowing it to go. We're not allowing it to be separate from us. We're treating it as if it's part. And when it comes to our positivity, it feels like something that's consciously efforted. It feels like we have to make conscious effort to be positive sometimes. And I think that's just a learned thing. In saying that what you don't get from the world, you give to yourself, that also works for positivity, for love, whatever you wanna call it. And I find it kind of interesting how my channel has sort of changed depending on how I viewed the world. And I used to have a very analytical sense of view, and I still do. But I feel like when it comes to that sort of philosophy and understanding, it kind of gets difficult for the application. And that's why I feel like breaking it down into the most simplest parts, which are just doing your best and being you, making sure your foundation is straight, is important. Because whatever you build on top of that foundation is going to be good enough for you to see. You have to be aware of what you're doing and not necessarily come to the building just when you get to the top floor. You can't appreciate the building right when it's as soon as it's complete, but appreciate it the whole time it's being built. So you make sure each and every part is placed with a certain intention, a certain love and care, rather than haste and trying to build yourself up just to get out into a situation where you're prone to collapse. That's why I feel like starting in the root and starting and just cultivating positivity and love within yourself is truly important. Because if you're not gonna love yourself, then why should you have expectations for other people to? If you can't see the good in you, why would you expect someone else to? And that's my point. Like, it's about that honesty you have with yourself, and sometimes our feelings are honest. It's honest that you don't feel that way about yourself, or you don't think that way. It's important to instill that when you don't feel that way. Like, whenever I feel like, I'm lacking on my love for myself, I'm lacking on my positivity, appreciation, and gratitude, I practice those intently and at that moment. It's not about what the world throws at you. It's about how you react to it, whether or not you allow yourself to get hit or you move out the way. And a lot of times this is about moving into yourself, realizing that you in the world are sort of reflections of each other. And it's like the law of mirrors, or the smoky mirror. It's in the four agreements. It basically talks about how we see the world is literally how we see ourselves. And it's about instilling whatever you want to see in yourself, or whatever you want to see in the world, in yourself. What you don't get from the world, give to yourself. That's where I feel like the subtle importance is. Not necessarily in just our application, but in who's applying it, and who's making that application, and who's making these changes, and who's instilling that positivity. It's about cheering yourself on whenever you do stuff like that, because you have to. You must. There's no reason not to. That's my point. And I feel like any success is truly gained by having a perspective of yourself that is successful. Successful people think they're successful. Great people think they're great. It's like, not saying be delusional, but be honest with yourself and cultivate yourself into something that you can appreciate. But understand that your appreciation doesn't come at the end. It comes while you're doing it. It comes in your effort to appreciate. By trying to appreciate yourself, you feel appreciation for yourself. You have to appreciate yourself for appreciating sometimes. And when you do stuff like that, I feel like it only magnifies the intensity of the positivity that you try to put out. Because at the end of the day, it's you and you. It's your contribution to yourself that allows you to be so full of you. And I guess what that means is really just realizing that whatever you have within you is stuff you've allowed to be placed there, or you've placed there yourself. I know it's difficult sometimes, and I can't necessarily speak for everyone, because every situation is different. But from what I understand, from what I know as myself, what you allow to be a part of you will be a part of you. And what you allow to pass through you will pass through. It's about being intent with that mental aspect of it, because your mind is what tries to press things into your subconscious. And that's why I feel like it's important to take a step back from your mind when you want to truly see yourself, especially if your mind is overthinking and rampant. Because I used to have that issue, and I used to try to overthink through every issue, overthink through whatever, and I'd philosophize basically everything. It found me a solution. It got to a point, but I realized once I tried to be present, once I truly tried to be present and just instill positivity within myself, I didn't necessarily need a grandiose explanation to everything that's going on. I just needed myself. I just needed my understanding and my articulation and my expression to understand who I am, what I want to do, and how I want to do it. Just being here enough and giving myself enough clarity, enough versatility, enough whatever. If you give yourself what the world doesn't give to you, it allows you to be within the world and build upon it. Because if not, then you're worried about taking from the world and building onto yourself. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really do appreciate all of y'all. I really enjoyed making this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're being honest with yourself and I guess really just treating yourself like a friend. Because at the end of the day, it is you and you. And you are a great thing. You're a great person. Just keep instilling that within yourself and be honest. But yeah. So take care. Oh, wait. And then I got one more thing that I'm trying to do. And it's